All right. Um, Good evening. It is now 5:33 on um, January 5th, 2021, and this is the monthly meeting of the Board of Directors of Cheshire TV. This meeting, hi, Cohen, hopefully will be recorded, and the secretary is here to keep track of what we're doing. Um, I expect most of you have noticed that I'm not Jimmy Turner. Jimmy is at home recovering from surgery right now. My name is Dave Payson. I'm the vice chair. Jimmy has asked me to run this meeting, and so I will do my best to do that. I would like to say that, use the phrase, as unaccustomed to public speaking as I am, but that's simply not true. I'm a retired teacher. I'm quite comfortable with public teaching. There's better. See, there we go. However, I have not chaired a nonprofit board meeting again on Zoom or any other way, so I'm hoping this goes smoothly, and I apologize ahead of time if I stumble through this at any point. Before we do anything else, we need to take an account to see that we have a quorum of existing members, and that does not include the members who we will see tonight, who have recently been elected to the board. And so, Conan, are you there?
I am here.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Can we do a count of the existing board members, please? Who's here?
You want to do a roll call? Or you just want me to go down the list and tell you who's here?
Yes, please. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing myself, Conan Soliday, Dave Payson,
Yes.
Ken Colby, Christina Germano, Steve Hooper, Jody Newell. Well, hold on.
But there's a new member. How many? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, there haven't been certified by the inspector of elections yet, so I'm just going to the current members. Yes, we do have quorum.
All right. The current members I see are Ken Colby, Steve Hooper, me, Dave Payson, you, Tony Savada, and Christina Germano. And so, given that, we have a quorum and we can proceed. I'm going to say a few words about the structure of this meeting and this and that before we get to the agenda. The very first thing I want to say is, in public, congratulations and welcome to the new board members who have been elected and who will be seated tonight. It's a great thing. To paraphrase Jimmy Turner, the organization, Cheshire TV, really relies not just on the hard work and the commitment of its staff, but the commitment of its members, the public, who produce programming and serve on the board and generally oversee the governance of the organization. It's a great thing. I'm really happy. I'm also really happy that now, for the first time in rather a while, we have a full 12-member board. I think that's a great thing. That said, how will we proceed tonight? Tonight's proceedings will start with input from members, from the public. The agenda I have in front of me allows up to a half an hour of comments by the public if they wish. The way this is structured, and the structure of this part of the meeting and all the parts of the meeting have been reviewed by Councillor Bradford Cook, who is with us tonight, just to make sure that we're doing things properly. And so that's important to understand, I think, in the context of what we're up to. With regard to the public communication here, any member of Cheshire TV is welcome to speak for 3 minutes on a topic of concern or interest. And that begins right now. If there's any member of the public, or public members of, who are public members who wish to speak, and right now I don't see it, but maybe there will be, or maybe there are.
Can I just jump in real quick and ask a quick question, if you don't mind?
I'm sorry, so you broke up there a little bit on me, yes?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask a real quick question. I was wondering if we should actually, when the certification happens, because it seems like if we're
That will be,
right.
but by the count I have, the latest agenda that came in my email, that's the 8th thing on the list tonight.
I'm sorry. As far as I know, I didn't get an agenda. I don't know. Maybe I missed it in my email.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's perfectly appropriate for you to ask. One of the things that will happen there's this public comment piece on the agenda, which doesn't seem like it's going to happen because I don't see any members of the organization who aren't board members here to speak. So the next 2 items will be approving of former minutes, and then Councilor Cook has some things to say about the organization and the election. Some members have on email questioned the process of the election. He will speak to that, I believe. Also, I'm hoping, Joe Brzezinski is here. Brzezinski is here. Hi, Joe. The gentleman who ran the election will speak to his process so that it's clear to everyone how that went on. After that, a couple quick reports, and then Jody, you and your new colleagues will be certified as members of the board. Then we have some more business to do. It's actually potentially kind of a meeting. So,
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
yes,
This is Christina.
yes.
I do see in the chat box that somebody did say there are members of the public here. So I'm not sure if it's this webinar format that isn't showing the people that are just watching and are not panelists. Because in your
Okay,
chat
well,
box-
if there are members of the public here, then I would ask our administrator to allow them 3 minutes apiece to speak.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. So I'll jump in here. My name's Mike Branley. Jody and Dave asked me to help with just the Zoom aspect. So we do have a few attendees in here. So if you would like to speak for up to 3 minutes, please by the raise hand function, and we'll call on you in the order we see you. So we'll just give those folks a minute to indicate by the raise hand function that they would like to speak.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
And thank you, Christina. All right, so we'll wait for our first member of the public to speak. Here we are.
Okay, and we do have one person with their hand up. So Kriston Klaus, you are first. Please go ahead.
You guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So first of all, hello. I'm a little confused because normally the election happens by the annual meeting. At the annual meeting, the election results are certified. Immediately, there is an election of officers and assignment of committees. We've had an election. You've put the results on the website. You've sent congratulatory emails to the new board members. What should happen right away is the certification of the election, the new election of officers, and the assignment of committees. So I'm not really sure why, like, that happens immediately after the election is over. You know, I'm not really sure why it was tucked at the end of the agenda. I want to know if someone can get Joe on the phone and get this started. I don't think it's appropriate to start any business with a partial board when there are sitting board members who have been elected that need to do their jobs. That's all I have to say.
I'd like to point out as well that it doesn't really make sense to do the initiation of the new board members at the end when this is a board meeting and we have all the board members here. I would like to second Kirsten's motion to certify the board before we do a board meeting.
Oh, okay.
have to agree.
You'll pardon me, Russell, but Kristen cannot make a motion. She can make a comment.
I could make a motion then, or, you know, as a new board member, and if I'm going to be attending a board meeting, I should be a fully certified member before we get into any of the agenda items. So I have to agree that the new board members should be certified now.
Dave, Joe is in the chat. He did arrive. He can go ahead and certify these results so we can get everyone who's already in this group all seated at the table.
That'd be great.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Yes, Christina.
if it's not outside of something, we do have our attorney Brad Cook here. I would be willing to move that agenda item up to the beginning and make a motion that we first certify the newly elected members. If Brad could just comment on that, if there's any reason that that shouldn't happen.
Well, one of the items on the agenda is the legitimacy of the election, since there were so many protests of the election process. And one of the things we were going to talk about is whether the election, in fact, was valid, because so many people questioned whether it could be held. And I'm prepared to address that. But what we were planning, I think the chairman was planning to do, was to have a report from the inspector of elections to explain what happened, explain how he did what he did, to see what the facts of the situation were. And then I can address our evaluation of the legality of the election, so the board can consider whether in fact they have elected people who can be seated. So it's nobody's trying to do anything other than figure out, since so many people questioned prior to the election whether it was legitimate, that we ought to consider whether it was legitimate.
So can
Thank
we
you,
do
that makes
first
sense.
I'm perfectly comfortable with changing the order of activity on the agenda, and with quickly certifying new board members. I do think that Councilor Cooper has a point that, given the concern of the validity of the election, maybe we should hear from Mr. Bedinsky about how it was conducted before we go on. What do people think about that?
I agree, and I take back my motion to move it to the beginning.
Is that okay? All right.
Well,
Well,
you need to see whether there's any more public comment, however, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, pardon me?
I said your first thing is whether there are any other people that have public comments, because that's the first item on your
Pardon me.
agenda.
All right. Okay, very, very good. My mistake. So, Mike, do we have other people who wish to make public comments?
I do not see any other hands raised at this time.
Given that there doesn't seem to be anyone else who wishes to make a public comment at this time, I may suggest that Joe Bedinsky now tell us how the election was conducted, and we can consider that information. Joe, you're on. Joe? Mike, is he still connected?
He's coming. He's coming.
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me?
No, he's muted.
Huh?
Oh, no,
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, Joe.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. On the 28th of December, I went to Cheshire TV. and sat in a room. Everything I did was also videotaped for anybody else that would have liked to have been there but wasn't there. And at that point, I received 20 sealed envelopes, which were a ballot. And I also had with me, of course, the list of people who were nominated for the board members. The first thing I did was each ballot, even before I opened the envelope, every ballot had a return address on it except one. And I had a membership list with me. There, in our database, there was a total of 77 members for Cheshire TV. So I validated each ballot was a member of Cheshire TV. I had to dismiss 2 out of the 18 ballots. And one of those, I'm sorry, was Steve Hooper, because his membership had expired. It wasn't for lack of address or identification. It's just he was not a member at the point. So I put, he was the one I put aside. And the second one did not have a return address or any other identification on it. And that was it. Of the 18 ballots that were left, I went and tallied the votes for, on each ballot, because potentially each person could give 5 votes. They could vote for 4 people on the ballot. I had a total of 88 votes. There were 2 people who voted for only 4 people, and the rest voted for 5. And I kept a tally of each vote I counted in front of each person's name. I knew they were all members because I'd done that, and that was it. I ended up with a total number of 88 votes, because that was the 80 minus 4. I'm sorry, a total of 88 votes. That was 80 minus 8, because 2 people voted for 4, and 18 ballots that were good outside the 2 I already had. Kept a tally, added up every vote that was on my ballot, and put a total of vote on each ballot that was submitted by a member. Counted them up and made sure everything agreed between the number that were supposed to be cast. It came out perfectly. It came out to be a total of 88 votes on the ballots that were, and that was the result of the 5 people who received the most number of votes were the ones that won. Is there any other question or something else I could explain?
Yeah, I have this. This is Brad Cook. I've got a question. I'm looking at what the assertions of irregularities in the election were that certain members stated. And one of the statements was that ineligible or inactive members, as well as non-members, received ballots, and not all eligible members received ballots, which would be a serious matter if that were true. Do you have any knowledge of whether anybody who was ineligible or not a member got a ballot, and whether anybody who was a member didn't get a ballot or wasn't sent a ballot?
Well, are you asking me or someone else?
I'm asking somebody, because that's a serious, that was a serious assertion that everybody eligible didn't get a ballot and people ineligible did get ballots.
Yeah, yes, but all I can say out of all my ballots, they were all members except the 2 which I counted. So I can't go above that. They were all.
But you're talking about the ballots that came back. You don't know about the ballots that went out.
Yes, I am. I don't know how somebody did make an assumption like that, but I don't know how they came to that conclusion, because the only way you could really come to that conclusion is you'd have to write to these members or personally know them to get to that. And I went by our current database, and many times, you know, not only us, but even cities and states, databases aren't always accurate. I don't think there's been an accurate database out there since Moses split the Red Sea. You get people who don't change addresses. You get people who, you know, it's just, I can't even get an accurate Christmas card list all the time. And the only way it can ever get corrected is people must submit changes or changes of address or a notice of death or whatever. But from my experience, I only had 2 that I had to reject. The rest were all members.
Okay, I guess
Yeah, I think.
my question, Mr. Chairman, and I'm just trying to get to I mean, we've been trying to examine these assertions that the election wasn't fair or proper to have the ability to give you some kind of legal advice on the subject. Who sent the ballots out?
I did. Well, I ordered them to be sent out. I mean, I didn't sit there at the computer because I don't type that well, and I ordered that get the ballots out to people.
But did you supply the list to whom they should go?
Yeah. Yes, we used our member database.
All right, so the people that would have been sent them from the list, assuming it was, and I'm willing to accept the fact that whoever did it followed the list you gave them, were there any people were all the members on the list?
Yes, we had, you know, that we have, excuse me, of our total list, there were 77 members listed. 1 was inactive, which of course was Steve Hooper, but that's been corrected since then. And we had a total of 20 ballots submitted. So,
you know, that's not my question, Joe, and I'm not arguing with you, and I'm not trying to.
well, that's
I'm just trying to find the facts out here. If all of the members were on the list and no ineligible members weren't on the list, and accepting the fact that you might not have had a current address for some people, so they never received a ballot. But as far as you know, every member was sent a ballot, and nobody who wasn't a member or was assumed to be a member at the time was sent a ballot. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay. So the assertion that based on what you know and not what you don't know, because none of us can say what we don't know, but based on what you know, the assertion that inactive members and non-members receive ballots and not all eligible members receive ballots wouldn't be consistent with what was sent out.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Mike. I got an email from Galen Trinkle, who was not an active member, has been retired, and he's lives over in Stoddard, and he was very confused because he was mailed a ballot and it came out of nowhere. And he emailed me because we're friends, and he said, "What's going on?" My point being that I agree with Joe that the data list is not accurate. There were people, including Galen Trinkle, in my opinion, that were not active members that were sent ballots, and it could be the other way around as well. I'm just inputting this for as an informational in this discussion. So thank you.
Pardon me, this is, I think, an important conversation, and if I understand by the questions, there seem to be, or your concerns, two questions unanswered here. And one is whether or not active members did not receive ballots if they weren't sent out to them. To be able to answer that question, we need to know who sent the ballots out, and I don't know that. And the other seems to be whether or not people who were not active members got ballots and voted. Joe, I believe, has answered that second question because he did check the 18 ballots he got back with the active membership list he had in the room. I saw that. I believe Cohen saw that. He was there. I believe Nick Morton, who's at this meeting, also saw that. So, question that seems to remain is whether or not active members did not receive ballots. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, me either.
I also do not know how to answer that either.
Do we know who sent out the ballots?
Yes, I did. Well,
If
I
I
had-
may,
Christina?
yes, my understanding is at the direction of Joe, the ballots were sent out first by email, which by the bylaws is the approved form of communication. And then through just other conversations that we had, if something got bounced back, they mailed a physical ballot to a member. So I believe that we can get to that original email. We would have to just do some digging in the Outlook program or whatever they use for email and be able to see that whole list of who did get emailed the ballots. And I think that could answer our question, even though some of those emails might be wrong, but we would at least have a base of where we know things got sent to.
Thank you, Christina. That makes sense to me. Absolutely. Now, I'm going to back up for a second, if I may, and this has everything to do with my poor hearing, even with my hearing aids. Did I hear that Joe sent out the ballots? Joe, did I hear that you sent out the ballots?
Yeah, well, I ordered them to be sent out. I didn't physically do it myself because I'm not a very good typist for sending emails.
Okay, who did you order to do it?
Nick,
Okay, Nick?
I'm sorry, it wasn't me.
It wasn't you. Judy, hi. Sorry.
So it was me that sent out the email. I have a copy. I can pull it up and I can get you that tomorrow. It was under the direction of Joe. We can only do what we can do with the database that we had. Anybody that did not receive an email did receive the information by mail because we felt that it was important, even though it does state in our bylaws that email is the form of communication and that it's up to the members to update the database. So we did every effort that we could to make sure that everything was accurate when we sent out the information for the ballots.
Councilor Cook, where are we with regard to your questions?
Okay, well, it sounds to me as if every effort was made to send out the ballots to all the members, and it also sounds like when the ones that were received back, with the one exception that Joe mentioned, were only from members or people who thought they were members, so there wasn't any bunch of prior members or non-members who were voting, and I think that was the fundamental issue in the questioning about how the election was conducted. The other thing that was questioned in the conduct of the election was Joe's failure to follow Section 803 to respond to challenges, questions, and accuracy and fairness of the election. And I think that's kind of a vague assertion, and I'm not sure that would invalidate an election, because how people respond to things is sort of in the eye of the beholder. There's one other technical issue with this election that I've found out. You were electing a number of new directors to complete the full complement of directors of Cheshire Television. And they serve for staggered terms. Typically, when elections are done, I don't know how you've done it in the past, but typically when elections are done, people run for a particular spot, meaning they're running for a 1, 2, or 3-year term, or whatever the term is. That distinction wasn't made, so I'm not quite sure when you certify the winners, how you assign them to certain terms. I'm not sure that rises to the level of making the election fatal, but I'm not sure how you get out of that box unless you do it by just lot or something.
Okay, well, that I hear that the issue of assigning board members terms, and that was not covered in this election. I'm hoping that's something that we can do in the near future rather than invalidating this election. I'm hoping that we can appropriately validate this election and seat these new board members. What do you think?
Well, that's up to the board. The board before the new board members come in. As I say, I have not seen anything here. Certainly, it wasn't totally regular, but I haven't seen any irregularities that would rise to the level of invalidating the election. But I think there are a bunch of questions like who you're going to assign to which one. If any members had come forward and said, I didn't get a ballot by email or in the mail and I wasn't given the chance to vote, I think it would be different. But right now we just have a sort of, not to be cute, especially on an election night in Georgia, but we sort of have some Trumpian charges that there were irregularities in voting without any evidence that it affected the results of the election. So I think it's up to the board, but I don't see anything that would prohibit you proceeding.
Well, I have an idea, and just a second, I'm speaking mostly to, well, for information to everyone, but to the current board members. What I would like to do is for us to move to certify this election with the idea that at our next meeting, we will sort out the details of committee membership and anything else for new members. I wonder what other currently certified board members think of that idea. Okay, the inspector certifies. Fine. Thank you, Lee. Christina.
I think if there's not any further discussion, we can move forward to have the inspector of the elections, Joe, to certify the results and the board to then welcome new members.
Okay. Joe, could you
Okay,
please certify the...
am I on or?
You're on.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to overtalk you. I am going to certify the results of the election and congratulate the number of people that won the election. And I guess there's nothing else to say.
Okay. I believe then that is accomplished. So welcome, P5. This is great. Okay, so that...
Could I just correct one point? In my email, I got several questions about well, I suppose it's not important. I got several questions about the election, and somebody said I didn't refer. I did it, and I got some on the same day that I was supposed to be at Cheshire TV, and I left there early. But I did reply to two people whose email I got very early. And actually one of them was Dave. I forgot David's last name. But anyways, I even invited him to be present at the time I was counting the votes, and he did not appear.
Dave,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a point of order. So, hi, Joe. So once you certify, Joe, our new directors, then that is it. There's no participation by the board at this point. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry, your point again, Steve?
You were correct, Steve. They just, once they're certified, they're there. They seat. No motions needed.
Okay, thank you, Conan. I appreciate your clarification. Never mind, Chair Payson. I'm all set.
Okay, so that is done. Welcome again. So we have a much larger board now. Moving on in the agenda, Mr. Cook, Councilor Cook had a number of things I think on his mind with regard to happenings at Cheshire TV, and I wonder if he would like to speak to those at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madeline Hutchings, my colleague, is also attending, and I understand, I'm looking at this on my iPhone since I had so many Zooms today that my iPad decided to run out of power, so I can't see who's there. But Madeline and I have enjoyed working with Cheshire TV this last part of the month that since we've been retained to try to help you. I want to make clear, we've been retained to represent the entity and not to represent any segment of the board against anybody else or anybody to try to advise the board properly. We have, as discussed the last time, I've got about 48 years doing nonprofit law in New Hampshire, and Madeline's not quite as much, a couple of years, but we've represented all kinds of not-for-profits, and I have to say that seeing all of the email conversation surrounding Cheshire TV in the last month has been both spirited and dispiriting, because helping nonprofits operate properly is what we try to do, and I know it's what the Attorney General's office tries to do, and we'd like to help lower the volume a little bit around Cheshire TV. The issues that we've been asked to address and look into by the board come out of some of the assertions that have been made and some of the questions that have been asked. I've had correspondence with Diane Quinlan, the Assistant Director of Charitable Trusts at the Attorney General's office. And she was, I think, pleased that you've retained counsel. She assured me that there is no investigation of Chester Television going on by their office. They had received a letter containing some of the issues that have been raised. They made an inquiry of Cheshire TV and they received a response, but they are not conducting any investigation. As far as I know, Cheshire Television does not appear to be in any danger of losing its 501c3 status because of anything that's been happening. We've looked at your organizational documents. We've looked at your bylaws. We've looked at your articles. And I have to say that, in saying this, I want to make clear that we represent several public television stations, including public access TV stations. And you appear to be unique, as far as I can tell, because in most cases, the public access TV entities are either departments of cities and towns, or they are 501c3 voluntary corporations, the members of which are the municipalities. You're different. You have individual members, as we just saw, because they just voted. and that's a unique situation. In your bylaws, you have processes and detailed provisions that I have to say, having helped write the bylaws of $100 million nonprofits, are as complicated and as oblique as any that I've ever seen. And it would be very hard to follow them completely. Some of them, very frankly, appear to be contradictory. Some are incomplete, and some leave a lot of questions. And one of the things we'd like to help you with in the future, along with a committee of your board, is a review of your bylaws. As you probably know, during the pandemic in the last year, the Attorney General has, through the Director of Charitable Trusts and through the governor's orders, changed a lot of the rules on how we operate in New Hampshire. The very conducting of annual meetings by nonprofits by Zoom, when in many cases their bylaws do not provide for it, is one of those things. They have also been very clear that minor failures to follow details of governing documents will not be deemed to be fatal because everybody's been trying to do the best they can. There is in the law something called a doctrine of necessity, which allows organizations to act even when they don't have the requisite number of board members in some cases, or they haven't followed every one of their detailed rules. And that's been used quite often this year. Some of the things that have been raised in questions about what your board has done in the last year could be fixed very easily by some simple motions that I've suggested to your directors. Whether you're going to entertain them tonight or not is a different issue, but I don't think anything that I've seen that's happened is in any way unfixable. There have been questions about the appointed directors of Cheshire Television. As far as I can tell, they've either received written appointment, or there's been an assurance by the bodies that appoint them that that is forthcoming. And I think it's fairly well known who they are. You have, as you know, contracts with the town of Swansea and the city of Keene that provide your funding, and they afford those cities certain rights, that city and town certain rights to appoint representatives. I don't believe anybody can remove those so appointed except the appointing authority. Directors of nonprofits, and since you have a number of new ones certified and even your existing ones, operate under certain legal requirements. And I always, when I talk to boards, remind them of the basic law, which is RSA 719, Roman numeral 2, which reads as follows. Directors, officers, and trustees of charitable trusts, that's what charities are called in New Hampshire, shall serve on the governing boards of such charitable trusts only for the charitable purposes of the organization. If such directors, officers, or trustees are serving for any other expressed or intended reasons, they shall not sit or serve on the governing board of the organization. In other words, the duty of each director of a nonprofit is the good work and purpose of the nonprofit, not to accomplish some other goal, not to get a contract, not to get a job, not to get a buddy a job, but to do what's best for the nonprofit. I'm not aware that anybody who's on your board, new or old, has any other such purpose, but I always like to remind people of that. And in fact, if it's shown that they are serving for some other reason, the Director of Charitable Trust has the authority to remove them. We've talked about the elections. That's one of the things we looked in carefully. There are matters regarding the special meeting on the 12th, which are another agenda item tonight. I've got some comments to make on that meeting and some of the specificity and things that have been requested, but I'll reserve my comments on those until we get to that item on the agenda. And I'm happy to answer any questions on something I've said. But again, we look forward to helping all of you to make this organization work as well as it possibly can so that it accomplishes its mission.
Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Brad, for that information. So just so that I'm clear, it's really has to be a very egregious situation per the RSA that you mentioned to remove directors, conflict of interest, stealing, embezzlement, etc. So what you're saying is that it does have to be a very serious matter and not just trying to carry on what is best for Cheshire TV?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I mean, they don't go around. First of all, there are 3 or 4 people in that office, and they don't go looking at the 10,000 nonprofits in New Hampshire every day to make trouble, for sure. But if they uncover situations where people are serving on a board to enrich themselves, not stealing necessarily, but to steer contracts to them or to get their buddies a job or to, get the advertising contract sent to their brother's company or something, then they can do several things. They can, if it's egregious enough, remove the director. And certainly there are other statutes on how such transactions have to be approved so that they are done in the sunshine and not in the shadows.
Thank you very much for that clarification.
Okay. Councilor Cook, is there anything else you need to add this moment?
Not right this second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. I would like to then move on to, we have a few other items on this agenda, some of which are very, I think, significant, which I would say rather mundane. Walk through a couple of mundane items, approving minutes, and then move on to some reports from members of the organization. So, item 2 on the original agenda was to approve of the December 1st, 2020 regular CTV board meeting. Both are well, all of our board members are now voting board members, which is a good thing. And so I wonder if any one of them would like to make a motion to approve these minutes.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion for a review and approval of the December 1st, 2020 regular Cheshire TV board meeting minutes.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, very good. Can we do a roll call vote, please, on this item, on this motion?
May I, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So I'm just, if we're approving minutes from a meeting that happened before, I would believe that the newly appointed members would abstain or something, because if they weren't there to approve, to be at the meeting, and I'm not sure we could get a majority then. So I'm not sure how that works.
From I understand the question, I understand the issue, because we're asking new members to engage in a vote either by approving or rejecting or abstaining of a meeting they were in attendance at. So I believe it's up to the judgment of the new members what they wish to do, which of those 3 options they wish to take. That's given that they're certified board members, they have every right to vote in this. So, as far as I can tell.
Can I?
So I recognize. Yes, Roy.
I I saw that the minutes of the public meetings are posted on the website. And so I
Yes.
did go in and look at those, and I have no problem approving those. But because one of the meetings that you've listed here was closed and we have not been able to review those minutes, I would not vote to approve those.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Any other comments? Russell, do you have a okay, no. All right,
this is
well,
to-
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
I'm sorry, Dave.
when the minutes of a closed session are sealed, they aren't kept and they aren't posted, so that they're not going to be available to review.
Thank you.
So as a board member, I won't be able to review those minutes.
Not unless you were a board member at the time, that's correct. Of the closed session portion, yes.
Okay, then as I said, I wouldn't approve them. If I'm not going to approve something that I don't know anything about.
Right,
The next agenda item won't be to approve the closed session. It'll be to approve the actual minutes, the 5 minutes or so that everyone was there.
so, Lori, I understand, I hear your concern, and you have two choices. One, you can abstain from voting, or two, you can vote against. Russell, did you have a comment? No. All right, well,
I move to approve the public session of the board meeting of December 1st.
okay, this has already been moved and seconded, I believe. Cohen?
No, it hasn't.
Huh? No? Okay, all right, fine, pardon me, Christina.
I
ahead.
move to
It's already
approve.
been moved and seconded. The initial minutes have been moved and seconded. We need to vote on it, and if we're not going to have any more discussion.
Okay, very good. I'd like to vote on it.
And I do believe, Jody, you had your hand up?
All that I wanted to say was that the minutes do indicate that we were in open session, that it was indicated why we went into closed session. And then when we came out, it also indicates that we came out of closed session and that the minutes were sealed. So I believe all of the information is on the website in the minutes that you would be receiving anyway.
Ken? Okay, Ken, you it up. Do you have
I should have.
a comment or a question?
No, I want to vote.
All right,
Okay,
let's do a roll call. This is for the December 1st minutes. Dave Payson,
yes.
Jody Turner,
Yes.
Ken Colby,
Yes,
Christina Germano,
Yes,
Steve Hooper,
Yes,
Jody Newell,
I said yes. Did you hear me?
no, I can hear you now.
I'm sorry. My computer's being weird.
And the names are all flipping around. Mary Ewell, and Mary, will you pronounce your last name for me?
You said it correctly. It's Yule.
Ewell,
Thank-
Mary Ewell?
Yes, it's Yule. I'll abstain. I haven't reviewed them, so.
Lori Donahue,
Yes,
Travis Rowe,
Yes.
Ruzel Zulo,
Rosal Zulo, I abstain.
and I do believe I just got everybody. So the motion passes, 2 abstains.
Dave Payson.
Dave
Okay,
Payson voted.
motion passed? Yes, I did. I voted first.
So I want to throw
all right.
out one. I want to throw out one motion if I could, or one topic. There is a dispute on some of the board seats, and we wanted to kind of throw that out there and see. It is for the board seats of Dave Payson, Rob McKillen, Christina Germano, and Conan are in dispute. And before we do all the voting, we wanted to see, is that something that we can suspend that until we get those disputes satisfied?
Okay, Councilor Cook?
Well, we've looked at, I mean, the fact that somebody says there's a dispute is nice, but I've looked at the appointment documents and the paperwork and the circumstances of those. And I'm satisfied those people have been elected properly to the board.
Travis? How does that sit with you? To be your opinion?
Well, the reason that we're saying, the reason I'm bringing this up is the bylaws that were there, and the different reasons for, I mean, they're not all the same reasons, but there's different reasons there.
Well, if you would like to make a motion, please do.
I would like to make that motion, yes.
Okay.
What was the motion?
To suspend the voting rights until those can be dealt with and those can be resolved satisfactorily.
To suspend the, excuse me, I couldn't hear you. To suspend the what?
The voting rights of the meeting moving forward, of the people that I mentioned.
No, no, no. Don't do nothing. Don't do nothing.
I second that.
Okay, you'll pardon me, this is my bad hearing, my bad internet connection. Tillman, could you read the motion, please?
Mr. Rowe, could you repeat your motion, suspend the voting rights of who?
Of Dave Pearson, Rob McGillican, Christine Germarley, and Conad. Conad, sorry, I can't say your last name. I apologize for that. So
I second that. In looking at the bylaws, there are some that stand out. Section 9.01, just to name one of them, section 7.03.
I have a question about what the actual dispute is. Can you go down? Because I think there's differences and
I don't mean to speak for Travis or anything, but I think the status of being on the board is in question per the bylaws and following the rules. Yeah.
And I second that. Sorry, I apologize that I had it muted. My infant is crying in the background, so I apologize on that. That's the reason I'm muted. But those are the reasons. There's a few different reasons. So I didn't want to go too much in detail. That's why I wanted to kind of bring it up now so it can be further looked at.
well, I mean, if you're gonna suspend voting rights of directors, you kind of need some details.
Dave Payson and Ron Milliken's terms expired on 9/30 and they weren't reappointed to the board by the respective entities, just to name a couple things.
Their paperwork is in and they were actually, Steve's paperwork was in on the 29th of September. And we have information, as I stated before, we have information from his appointing authority that it's coming. And so the fact that it's not physically there, but you know that it's there, in my opinion, is sufficient.
Sorry to interrupt, but Steve's spot isn't in dispute. It's Dave Payson, Ron Milliken, Christina Germano.
Ron Milliken's paperwork is in from the SAU.
And I guess the other dispute was whether Germano is an actual member. She is a member, am I correct?
That's correct.
And then I guess I'm in dispute because Germano seconded that motion a couple of meetings ago, appointing me as the appointed position. So are you still disputing this?
It sounds like the one.
Or some technicalities?
Well, it's not so much the technicalities. I'm saying more
Excuse
of the bylaws. Sorry, Dave. I apologize.
Okay.
I know that the bylaws are in question with everything that we do on this board, and we just want to follow the bylaws to make sure that nothing can come up where anything can be disputed. I know that the 9:30 deadline had passed before the letters from the SAU were sent, just little things like that.
If I
And
may,
then the whole not being the member when she was appointed. that
if I
was the
may
next thing.
interject for a moment, please. Excuse me. It sounds to me as if right now the one question, the one issue is whether or not it would be appropriate for me to vote, given that the paperwork from K State College has not arrived yet. If that's the situation, if that's the issue, then I am happy to refrain from voting during this meeting. Is that satisfactory for the moment, or would you like to go on with this motion?
Yeah, that portion is satisfactory, but just as far as Travis's motion goes, I think he wants to settle each one to make sure that everything is good. I know that Christina Germano was appointed on 420, but she wasn't a member at the time. And per the bylaws, you have to be a member to be on the board. And she joined the board on 12/20. So within that time, the Conan appointing wouldn't have been valid.
Councilor Bradford.
I believe those,
Councilor Cook, plenty.
those potential errors have been cured, and I think that's, this is a lot of technical mumbo jumbo.
I have a question. What do you mean by they have been cured? Because I don't understand. If the bylaws say that you have to be a member, he wasn't a member, how has that been cured?
Became a member.
Yeah, she became a member on 12/20, but anything she did before that as a board member would be null and void. Am I correct in thinking?
I don't believe that's correct.
How could that not be correct? He's not a member, then she couldn't be a board member. So if she wasn't really a board member, how could she vote on anything?
If I may say something, because you are speaking about me, I became a board member back in, my first meeting was October of 2019. And I was an appointed board member by the board. And if you look further into the bylaws, similar to what Attorney Cook has been saying, is that there are many contradictory things in the bylaws. I have been reading them incessantly for the last 6 months because every time something comes up, there is some kind of dispute about it. There is a place in the bylaws that says that an appointee does not have to be a member. I was not a member of Cheshire TV because I'm not a producer. I came on as a person to help the board from a treasurer and financial standpoint because of my experience with the financials of nonprofits. And when the question was raised, if that I was supposed to be a board member, and because there are these contradictory things in the bylaws themselves, I became a member of Cheshire TV because I was asked to become one. It is not something that I plan on producing or anything, but my experience and my talents were asked for outside of being a member of Cheshire TV. And I remedied that when it was even raised, even though the legal issue of that, if that is true or not, it really is still in question, because if you read all the sections of the bylaws, at one point it says a board member appointed by the board because of a vacancy does not have to be a member. So you can disregard everything.
Yeah, I was just gonna.
Hang on.
I was gonna ask for that. Where's that provision?
Steve?
Yeah, can you point us to the section in the bylaws where it
And
says,
then Russell.
because before joining this board, I think we all went through the bylaws to make sure it was something that we were following correctly.
Ken?
No, I'm just chuckling.
Okay, Steve.
Yeah, I'm chuckling along with Ken. I think with all due respect to all the board members and those who have joined us this evening as new board directors, if you listen to what Brad Cook is saying, he's indicating that there are many areas of the bylaws that can be actually interpreted several different ways. I've been hearing from certain members, these are so clear. Why can't you understand that? Well, Brad, with his 48 years of experience, sees this as a very, very difficult bylaw process to understand what is meaning what in the bylaws. So what I think we need to look at as the big picture is not these technicalities at this point, but the fact that the bylaws do need to be simplified, they need to be clarified, and we could debate this point that Mr. Rowe brought up for 3 hours. I'm not prepared to do that. Thank you.
I agree, and I would just like to.
Chair Payson, what I'd like to explain to the new board members is that you will be receiving a notebook that has the bylaws, the membership agreement, the handbook, all of the information that we were never given, so that you will have a better understanding of all of the rules of Cheshire TV. I don't expect you to know all of them right now, but there's a lot of information that you will be given, and as new board members, you will be asked to be able to know all of this information as well. When I became a board member, I had no idea that we were so political or that we had so many rules. I was a producer. I've been a producer for 9 years. This information is really rough when all you're doing is you're trying to run a public access channel. So what I want you guys to know is I might not be able to give you that exact page tonight, but the information is on our website and you will be receiving that information.
I think that's where we all got the bylaws, is from the website. We didn't go into this blind. And I can speak for a few different people, but we've all sat or are sitting on nonprofit boards, and we have experience in that regard. And this is just very weird. At what point are we just throwing bylaws out and not following the rules? I'm just trying to wrap my head around that.
Okay, it seems to me we have a few choices tonight. One of them is to, if we're going to move on beyond this moment, because this may take research into the bylaws take the query, and it may not. People can simply vote. However, if, as Councilor Cook says, Bill Milliken's paperwork is in, so he is certified. I do believe that particular point is problematic, Travis, in terms of your motion. I wonder if you want to restate your motion so that he is not included. Just an open question. Travis?
Are you saying amend that person out? Is that what you're saying? The rest would be voted on? Is that what you're going with?
Well, with regard to the vote, the motion that you put forward included 3 people, including Bill Milliken. I understand from Councilor Cook that Mr. Milliken's paperwork is in, so that I think acknowledges him as a representative of SAU 29. Appropriately, and I wonder if you still want to keep him in your motion, because
I would, if Mr. Cook is saying the paperwork is in, if we remove that one, I would still say the other 4, yes.
Okay. Cohen, does Travis have to restate his motion, or can we just remove Bill Milliken's name? All right, can't hear you.
I don't think we need to restate that. I just need to get the names. Dave Payson, Christina Germano, Conan Soliday, and Rob Milliken has been removed. Is there another name?
Say with those 3.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry.
And the motion was seconded by who?
Seconded.
Okay, and why is it?
If the seconder will consent to the amendment to the motion by the person who made it, then you don't have to do anything else.
Is that correct, Russell?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have an amended motion.
Is there any discussion, Jody?
I would like to know again, what is it that we're voting on? Because Christina is a member, Robert Milliken is a member, and as far as I can see, Conan is a member. So the only person in question is Dave Payson, and his paperwork is in the process. It just hasn't reached Cheshire TV yet. I would like clarification if I could.
I don't think it's a question of if they're members now. I think it's a question of when they became members and the power they had to make votes during the time that is in dispute.
And I understand that it says technicalities, but those are the technicalities that hold everything together. Those are the bylaws. That's why I present it this way.
If a motion is made and effectively seconded, but then passed by a majority, it's still of action by the body. So this nonsense about somebody wasn't a member when they made a second to a motion, when the motion was passed by the board, it was a motion, it was an action by the board.
Right.
Even if the board seat is in question?
I mean, if the board seat is in question.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around being able to sit on a board without going through the proper channels and being able to make votes and then being a member after the fact. It seems kind of wrong to me.
No. You're not listening to what I say. Your motion right now is to deprive people who are legitimate members of the right to vote going forward. We're not talking about prior actions. And if I understood you correctly, maybe I misunderstood you, but if I understood you correctly, you're saying one of these people wasn't voted on properly because the person who seconded the motion wasn't a member. And I'm saying if the entire body passed it, the fact that in good faith, relying on the efficacy of what was going on, and the fact that the seconder wasn't a member at the time, if that's what you said, no, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. But if that's what you're saying, then I think that argument fails as to letting these people vote going forward.
I'm stuck here. I do not know how to proceed. Christina.
Well, then may I suggest that we proceed? I think this has been a long conversation about approving minutes of
What do you mean by proceed?
a 5-minute meeting. And I also feel that Cheshire TV as an entity has retained an attorney whom has answered the questions in several different ways about the validity of certain members, board members, reality of being on the board or not. And I think that if we've retained an attorney to interpret these things for us, it is time to move on. I understand that Russell has served on a board of a nonprofit before. As Attorney Cook mentioned, that we are a very unique entity in that regard. And I know, I'm sure that other people on the board, the new members, which I would love to welcome and be able to move forward with making Cheshire TV better than it is. And we spend an ad nauseum amount of time over the last 6 months on these discussions back and forth. So I believe that Cheshire TV has retained an attorney has given us their opinion, and we do need to rely on that to move on.
Steve, and then I have something to say.
Okay, thank you. I just want to echo wholeheartedly what Christina just said. again, rather than looking forward to trying to make Cheshire TV a more strong organization, so that the city of Keene has faith in that organization and continues to make checks out for a total of $175,000 a year. I don't think they want to see these disputes in this, basically what we're discussing tonight, these points and technicalities. That's not going to go over very well with the city of Keene, and if I may say, with other entities. And I would just please ask that we stop talking about these this evening and work our way through the bylaws, as Brad Cook had mentioned, make them better, make them more clear, and not spend hours at a Zoom meeting trying to dispute some of these things that are in the bylaws. So I just ask you, please, Mr. Rhoda, rescind your, thank you.
In the context of moving forward, a question, first of all, that I'm not clear about the answer to. Councilor Cook, we have a motion before the board that has been seconded. It seems to me, well, I don't know, does it need to be voted on? I mean,
Well, if you have a motion on the floor that's been seconded, and it's to, as I understand it, deny the 3 board members the right to vote further until their status has been determined, it appears that it's a legitimate motion, and from a parliamentary perspective, you probably ought to vote on it.
okay.
Board members clarifying.
Pardon me, Martha?
Sorry, I was just clarifying 4 members.
Oh, pardon me, 4 members.
Okay, well, it sounds to me then, and what it is, we can have further discussion on this motion, or in order to move forward, we need to call the question. So, is there any further discussion?
I don't know how we can move
Christina.
forward on this. I don't know how we can move forward on this particular question, because if board members are motioning to invalidate other board members' votes, then the 4 board members that they are trying to invalidate as board members, can we vote or not? It seems like a crazy catch-22 thing that is, at this point, particularly approving minutes, we should move on from and get through this.
But the reason they do it at the beginning is to get that right out of the way, so then the vote after that.
But so, but you presenting a vote to remove my vote, can I vote on that?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Okay, Steve.
Thank you. Just one last thing before I shush up. I just think it's a very unfair motion based on the fact that Mr. Cook has mentioned that these people have been validated. So there's one little problem here, one little problem there. Again, Mr. Cook has talked about egregious behavior by the board. This doesn't even come close to that. These are technicalities in the bylaws. And if the board of directors at this moment in this Zoom meeting are going to choose to spend all their time on these matters, I'm not too sure what's going to happen in the future with a very strong board. It really is disappointing to me. Let's move ahead, as Christina mentioned. Let's move ahead. Let's not talk about these past things. It's not productive, and it doesn't impress me one bit.
All right, we have yes, Debbie. Debbie?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to speak up a little bit. I understand what you're saying, Steve, about, you know, wanting to move forward in a good way. And I think that's why people are bringing up these questions, is so that we can make sure that everything is set and everything is on the up and up, and then we can all move forward in a good way. I think when people are asking questions, especially new people to the board who are trying to ask questions, because we're trying to get up to speed, we're trying to make sure that when we come onto this board, we're coming onto this board with a clear slate and everything is on the up and up for us to move forward in a good way. And unfortunately, I mean, I just want to say, I understand, like, people would be upset about that, or take offense to it. But it's not a personal thing. It's what the bylaws are. I mean, it's not against any one person. But to say these dismissive things like, oh, this is, you're just, being nitpicky, or I don't remember exactly what you said, but I mean, can we try to be, yes, we can move forward in a good way if we remember to be respectful to each other. And unfortunately, I feel like, on behalf of, Travis and Rosalind, the way that they're being kind of shooed, I think, maybe we could value, what people are saying and say, okay, this is a concern, let's talk about it, instead of saying, can we just move on and, getting personally offended. I mean, that's just my 2 cents. It makes me feel like, like, I'm sorry for asking a question where, we're all on this board and we're all trying to make Cheshire TV better. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Katie. All right, I have, I believe I've heard from Christine, Jim, all right. Jody Turner.
Okay.
Jody,
So
Turner?
what I would like to say also is that you do need to keep in mind that when these votes were made, these votes were not just including these 4 people. This was a quorum that we had when we made these votes. And these votes that these people may have made that may not have been on as a member or appointed at that time. Yes, we fixed them now. But the things that they've voted for haven't been anything egregious. They haven't been major. I would like to know, like, what is it that we think we're going to accomplish? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. If you know me, this is not who I am to be disrespectful. I am so glad that you guys are all here. But what I see is that one vote has not made a difference on a lot of these things. And so for us to hold everything up because we have one person that we're waiting for paperwork on and we've completed all the paperwork for everybody else, everybody's all set. I think that we do need to look at that and accept the fact that yes, mistakes were made, maybe oversights were done, but there's got to be some way that we can make corrections for things that happened in the past. I don't want to see us held up because of little teeny glitches. We're all learning here. These things never came up from what I can see in the past because things were done the same way for 15 years. Continuously for 15 years, nothing was ever questioned. Now we're questioning things as well. So what I would like to see from our new board members and our existing board is to I have an understanding that it's not just these people that made the decisions. It's the entire board, and we are one. We are not personal. This is all about Cheshire TV.
Okay. I understand from Councilor Cook that we have a motion on the floor. It's been put forward and seconded. We need to vote on it. We've had significant discussion on this motion. I would like to hear the motion again. So if Kevin can read it, and then that would be helpful. Then I'd like to call the question. I also have heard that those members who are contained in the motion as people who in the future can vote on this motion. So with that understanding, Kevin, could you please read the motion?
Motion has been made to suspend voting rights of Dave Payson, Christina Germano, Conan Soliday, seconded by Roselle Zulo. Motion made by Travis Rowe.
All right, call the question. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Conan Soliday, I vote no. Steve Hooper,
Absolutely no.
David Payson,
No.
Roselle Zulo,
Yes.
Lori Donahue,
Yes.
Ken Colby,
No.
Travis Rowe. Travis,
Sorry about that. Yes, I vote yes.
Jody Newell,
Yes.
Christina Germano,
No.
Jody Turner,
No.
Mary Ewell.
Yes.
I've got 6-5. The vote does not pass. The motion does not pass.
All right. We're done with that motion. I know we're spending a lot of time here. I will return to the agenda list, and what is called for now is approval of the December 1st, 2020 regular CCB board meeting. Would anyone like to move to do that? To make a motion to approve of those minutes? Dave? Dave?
Brad, I'm sorry, Brad, do you have a?
Yep.
Were you going to say something, Brad?
No.
Okay, sorry. This is Steve. I move to, for the approval of the December 18th, 2020 Special Executive Board Meeting and sealed minutes.
Wait, these are unsealed. This is December 1st.
We already approved that.
Oh, did we? Okay, pardon me. I missed that part. So now you're moving that we approve the December 18th minutes. Yes?
That is correct, Dave.
Okay, for coming. Do we have a second? All right, I'll second that. Call the question. Roll call vote, Kevin.
Conan Solly votes yes. Steve Huber,
Yes.
David Payson,
Yes.
Roselle,
I abstain.
Lori Donahue,
I abstain.
Ken Colby,
Yes.
Travis Rowe,
I abstain.
Jody Newell,
I abstain as well.
Christina Germano.
I'm sorry, could you reread the motion?
The motion, the motion was to approve the December 18th, 2020 meeting.
Yes.
Mary Ewell,
I abstain.
Jody Turner,
Yes.
and the vote passes. The motion passes.
Very good. Okay, moving on. We have a report from the Finance Committee. And that would be from the treasurer, Christina, but is she here?
Yes,
Oh, okay, just move my screen, okay. Can you give us a report from the
Yeah.
finance?
the Finance Committee, so there really isn't a committee because we lost 2 committee members. So it was me, but we are still in good standing in the interim. I'm very glad that we have a full complement of board members. I know one of our orders of business is to get our committees filled. Our obligation at this point is to report on the February meeting. So the obligation is to report quarterly, the month after having completed the financials. So December 31st is the end of the quarter, for obvious reasons. I do not have any of the financials or the QuickBook reports completed, and at this point, mail is still coming in dated December 31st. So hopefully we will get a finance committee together. If not in this meeting, I don't know if we can call a special meeting to get the meeting of the finance committee, which historically has been the week before the board of directors meeting, so that the finance committee can report to the board of directors the financial position of Cheshire TV. So that would be the week before the February, I believe it's 8th, 7th meeting or whatever that Tuesday night is. So I can report that the bank balances are where they have been for the last quarter. I can report that we've been working with Rust and Associates, the CPAs, who does our actual bookkeeping. So when they have questions about an expense that comes through, they reach out to myself or Nick, who has been really stepped in wonderfully. I want to thank you, Nick, for that, for the day-to-day operations. And we have no issues with Rust and Company. So our next actual financial report will be at our February board meeting. If I do not have a committee by then, I will do my best to draft them.
Actually, we need to reestablish all the committees this evening. This is the meeting after the election, so it has to be done, actually.
Okay, then I'm just going to ask that we move forward. We spent about 45 minutes discussing if people had the right to vote or not. And, 3 hours. So, okay, but then we need to get that done without a lot of other issues.
Well,
Okay, so-
hopefully we have a lot of discord. I wonder if, given the amount of time we spent in this meeting already, an hour and a half, there are a few things that we can deploy very expeditiously so that we can appoint people to positions as Kevin says. So I'm very quickly going to give a report from the hiring committee, looking for a new executive director.
Sure.
Cheshire TV is working with Activa HR to do that, to find a new director. Activa HR has forwarded us 8 applications to the position. We're in the process of arranging preliminary interviews with them. Short interviews, asking them all the same questions, keeping careful records of their responses to those questions to try to narrow the field. Over the holiday time between Christmas and New Year's has not been a good time to do that. I'm hopeful that the committee can get together to begin those preliminary interviews next week. That is the report from the hiring committee. Next up is a quick operational update from the acting executive director, Nick Norton. Nick, you with us?
Hi, Dave.
Hi. Okay, so it's a moment for an operational update. I'm wondering if you can talk to us about what's happening with staff, with Nexus, and with programming and the community right now.
Sure. So the Nexus today was supposed to be the day they were going to come in and put in the new Nexus system, but there's a couple of pieces on back order, so we have to reschedule. For programming, we're working with the YMCA. Some point this in the near future, they're going to come in and a couple people are going to sign up to become members, and then they want to eventually bring in a group of 13 or so kids to come in and learn the studio equipment and come in and produce their own show by themselves, which is pretty exciting. We've been working with the United Way. They have submitted a bunch of programming in the last few weeks, actually, and they have more programming on the way. Next Level Church we've been working with, they've submitted a Christmas Eve program, and they are working on more programming. And we've been working with the Senior Center as well, and they've been submitting Zoom interviews where the seniors just talk about their past history. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Can I just ask?
Yes, Mary.
Senior center? I don't mean to, I just wanted to ask which senior center. Is it the one right in Keene? Right in Keene?
Yeah, the Keene Senior Center.
Thank you.
Roy.
I want to go back to you were talking about the hiring committee. And I wanted
Yes.
to know what the schedule on that was and if the new board members can be included in that
All
committee.
right.
Seems like that's long.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, so pardon me, please say that again. Ask again.
I wanted to know if, where we were with the hiring committee, what the schedule was on that, and if the new board members can be included in that.
Okay, I understand the questions. Where we are with the hiring committee right now is at the very beginning. There are 8 applications for the executive director job. Our intentions are to do preliminary interviews with all 8 of them, the same format as every interview, short interviews. We have not begun that process yet, so that's where we are. At the moment, hang on, Christine. At the moment, the hiring committee is myself and Christina Germano and Nick Morton. Whether or not that committee can be changed, I don't know. And that I seriously, and I can't imagine there'd be a problem in changing it. Christina, maybe you have something you want to say here.
I do actually. Yes, when the hiring committee was formed, there were only 5 or 6 board members, so we were limited. And at that time, and it will be in the notes, I forget if that was November's meeting perhaps, in the minutes, that I actually accepted a place on the hiring committee due to lack of other people, and that once we had elections and we had a full complement of a board, that I would not only be willing but recommend that we either get additional people to the hiring committee. I can add some administrative requests of what we need in a new ED, but I don't have the production experience. So absolutely, if we do need to appoint all of our committee members tonight, I think that, and I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, if this changes things a little bit, but in the interest of time and needing to appoint committee members, if we don't have volunteers, then Dave, you will appoint committee members. So if I could suggest that you list the committees that need to be seated at the present time, and then maybe everybody on the board, because there are new members that we're not really sure where their interests lie and where they could be most useful, but also the existing board members, just for 30 seconds, can say who we are. If you're interested, if you want to volunteer for one of those committees, then we can, move forward with that. But yes, Lori, thank you for your question. And we definitely want more people on the hiring committee. And I think we need to just revamp the hiring committee.
Okay. Are we good? Can we move on? Okay, the next item on the agenda relates to the special meeting next Tuesday about board member removal and replacement. And Tony, it says here on my agenda that you're going to speak to that. Is that correct or is that incorrect?
There was a notice that was sent out last week notifying the members that there is a special meeting that will be held on the 12th, next Tuesday, via Zoom. I don't actually have that set up, but when it is, it will be posted on the Cheshire TV calendar.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Stand by. And that meeting is specifically dealing with the removal of board members without cause, as well as filling vacancies. And that is the only thing that can be discussed at that meeting.
And I'd like to make a comment. I said earlier, Mr. Chairman, that when we got to this item, I'd like to make a comment. Interestingly, the bylaws do not provide any mechanism for the members to fill a vacancy that hasn't been vacant for 6 months.
I'm sorry, my ears again. Greg, could you repeat that, please?
Pardon me?
That's what I'm saying. My bad hearing, and possibly my connection to the internet. Could you repeat what you just
I
said,
said the
please?
bylaws have no provision that allows the members to fill a vacancy that is newer than 6 months old. So I think probably the second part of the special meeting agenda is inconsistent with the powers of the members under the bylaws. They clearly have, and the other point that I would make, and I'm not sure this is fatal, but normally when people are seeking to remove directors, they identify the directors they're seeking to remove.
Can you cite
Thank
the
you.
bylaws that you are referencing, Mr. Cook?
Yeah, the certainly the board cannot fill, under 707 of the bylaws, the board is not allowed to fill vacancies created by a removal by the members. So the board can't fill it. But there's no power in the bylaws allowing members to replace a director except at an annual meeting or at a special meeting once a vacancy has existed for 6 months. There's no provision for filling a vacancy by the members that was just created by the members. Which is very curious, but we did a little research on the bylaws because I wanted to make sure I knew what was going on, and there's no provision for the members to take the second action petition for.
So they can vote to remove, but they can't vote to replace. Is that what you're
That's
saying?
apparently under the bylaws. I didn't write the bylaws, believe me.
So just to clarify, Roy's question and answer, Roy, I believe I heard you ask if it was within the members' power to remove board members, but not to replace them. Is that correct?
It's clearly
Is that a
within their
question?
power to remove. No, it's clearly there are provisions for the members to remove directors.
So in the chat section, you'll see that there's been section 5.05 posted, and it says on number B, filling vacancies on the board. So it says, so I'm just a little, I just need clarification on that, I guess.
I don't have the bylaws in front of me, so I can't answer that.
So it's in your chat section.
So I can say, sorry, that provision is involved, I think, in the certain matters that you need to put in a notice to have a special meeting, but filling the vacancies is technically under the bylaw, something that the board would do.
I thought thought Mr. Cook said that the board could not fill the vacancies, that
In certain, sorry, they can't fill the vacancies for a board member that was removed by the members, but there are other vacancies such as where an appointed entity hasn't appointed its board member where they could appoint someone to be that board position.
So in this specific instance, when it is a meeting to remove members, remove board directors by the members, then
Right.
the board cannot vote to replace them.
No, the board can't, but my point wasn't that the board can't. The board clearly cannot.
I understand that. I'm trying to clarify with your associate here.
Okay.
That what I'm saying is in the chat section, there is a section that is quoted from the bylaws that says that members can fill vacancies on the board. So I just needed clarification. You said they can't, but this section from the bylaws says that they can. So I'm confused.
So that section from the bylaws, my impression is it doesn't actually refer to member action. It refers to when you need to give notice of certain agenda items. So for a special meeting, you would need to give notice if you were going to be, if the board were going to be filling vacancies. Or for instance,
Okay.
6 months if the
Hopefully
members
that-
were to.
Hopefully that is clear and Kevin can continue.
Could I just clarify? I think there's a difference of members. The members of Cheshire TV can remove the board members, but members of the board can be the ones that replace them, not the members of Cheshire TV.
So the only circumstance that's provided in the bylaws for the members of Cheshire TV, not board members, but members of Cheshire TV, to replace a board member would be at the annual meeting or once 6 months has elapsed since the members of Cheshire TV have removed a director.
That would be section 707. The members may fill any vacancy or vacancies not filled by the directors after 6 months of the vacancy in accordance with section 503. But if, as been said, if the board member is removed by the members, that specific vacancy cannot be filled by the directors.
Correct. So it looks like it can't be filled by anybody.
Until 6 months later at another meeting or in the next election.
Or the next election, correct?
Yeah. So the 12th, the meeting on the 12th will involve the removal of directors, and that's it.
Right.
If that motion happens to be made at that meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification.
Do you have anything else to tell us with regard to the special meeting on the 12th?
Not for me.
Okay. That said, given the time we've been at this for an hour and 50 minutes. At this point, I think we can bypass all business in the Jody.
Sorry, but I would really like to have committee members appointed tonight, because that's going to hold up a bunch of things. It's going to hold up the hiring committee. It's going to hold up the finance committee. If we don't have volunteers tonight, I would like to see our chair, Payson, appoint members to committees.
Okay, I was just about to suggest that we skip the remainder of all business and move on to appointing members or having members volunteer for committees. I don't have the information in front of me to tell me which committees need members at this point. I wonder who does. I wonder if Kevin does or Christina does or who might.
My list is not complete, but we have an executive committee, a finance committee, an operations committee, and a hiring committee.
Okay, well, so let us proceed then to fill those committees, and starting with people who might volunteer to be on committees. I'm going to suggest, as someone had brought this up earlier, the hiring committee. The hiring committee has 3 people on it now, but 2 of them are myself and Christina are in question generally. So I wonder if
excuse me, Dave.
board would like to other people.
Just 1 minute.
Yes, welcome.
Not to
Yes.
interrupt or anything, but wouldn't it make more sense to draw lots and elect officers before assigning committees?
I'm not suggesting that I assign committees right now. That may be. I'm asking if there are any volunteers. So assigning or drawing lots would be later. And I don't know how we draw lots on Zoom, but any volunteers should be on the hiring committee.
Dave, I have something to say, please. Chair Payson.
Oh, well, Jody, yeah.
Okay, so Russell was just asking about officers. We already established officers at the annual meeting, so I believe the officers are already in place. I believe the question is the people that will be joining the committees. And what I would like to hear from Conan is who are on the committees right now, and then who would like to volunteer for the committees and then appoint people if they are not interested in volunteering.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. So, Conan, can you tell us who was on what committees?
That's a very good question. I have an incomplete list, but I can tell you what we need. We need at least 3 directors in each committee, and they cannot serve on more than 2 standing committees. So if anyone's interested, you can't be on all of them. But as far as the executive committee, I believe I have Jody Turner and Dave Payson. Am I correct in that?
Yes.
So we need at least 1 more member, and then I'll just put it out there. Anyone who's interested should volunteer. As far as drawing lots, you're not talking about drawing lots for committees, are you, Russell?
No, I was talking about the bylaw section where after an election, we're supposed to pick officers and to draw lots for their terms. Section 7.09, I'm just a little confused as of the order of operations here.
I think we have to clarify what it is that we're going to discuss. Are we going to discuss officers and terms, or are we going to discuss nomination committees? I think those are 2 different things.
I've never seen the lots option in the bylaws. I'm looking at 709 right now. It doesn't say anything about drawing lots. It does say that the meeting after the election will be, the officers and the committees will be established.
I think, Conan, that the drawing the lots was suggested by Mr. Cook because 5 of us are coming on and it's supposed to be staggered. And during the election, there wasn't, we weren't filling a specific spot. So Mr. Cook was trying to give a way to each of us, do we have a 1-year term, a 2-year term, or a 3-year term so that it can start to be staggered correctly. I believe that's correct.
That's correct. That's correct.
Right. And I believe that's a good way to do it. I believe that that's a good way to do it because in the information that we took when we sent out the ballots, the information we took was from a previous election. And that election ballot never specified anything on years. So maybe at that time they didn't specify what your term was going to be, but now your term is a maximum of 3 years. So we have 1 opening for 1 year. We have 2 openings for 2 years and 2 openings for 3 years.
And so how do we determine who is on for how long?
Well, one way to do it.
Volunteers, then we draw.
Well, I wouldn't. You're not going to let somebody get off that easy. I would suggest that you put each person's name on a piece of paper and put it in a bowl or something and have them drawn out. And the first person drawn out would get a 3, and the second person drawn out would get a 3, and the third person would get a 2, and the fourth person would get a 2, and the 5th one would get a 1.
Is that an amicable solution to the members of the board? Okay, all right. Well, let us do that. Let's proceed then. So that means it's going to take them a while before people actually have assignments. We can't close it tonight because we have to rely on the U.S. Postal Service.
What is the reasoning? what is the reasoning behind the term limits for, I mean, the directors in this entity go so fast. I mean, none of the old timers except Ken Colby are here. I mean, everyone lasts about a year or so and then they're done. What is the term limits for? Except to keeping old timers from occupying a spot for, too many years and taking over. I don't see it as a problem.
The term limits are set in the bylaws of the different positions for the different years. I don't think that drawing can happen tonight. I believe that our new board members, if we can appoint someone to make that drawing to see where they come in, then that's great. But I don't think that's something that has to be decided tonight. But we do need to set committees. We know who our board is. If there's a drawing to say if someone's a 3-year, 2-year, 1-year term, because all of our board members are new tonight, I'm not sure that's something that has to be done right now. But we do need to set committees this evening. And I think we're getting way off track as far as, yes, we have to establish who's in what position. I think a lottery is a great way to do that. And I think right now we need to get the committees filled so that the next board meeting that we can have a true and accurate report from the executive committee. We can have a true and accurate report from the finance committee. We can have a true and accurate report from the hiring committee.
I have a suggestion. I'm going to, all right, Lloyd?
I thought that after the elections, we also voted on officer. Are we not doing that?
Okay, this is my suggestion, my ears. Here's what, I'm gonna suggest that we first work on appointing members or have people volunteer to be on committees so we get committee assignments established. And after that, we work on years of terms. It seems like filming committees will be an easier and quicker task, and then we can stumble with the other piece. Is that agreeable to people, or would you rather have a different procedure? If so, what?
I didn't hear you.
Yes, Jody. Oh. Okay, first Jody, then Lori as well. I saw. So Jody Newell?
I was just going to suggest a simpler way of doing it. I know with other things we've done, like it's a random name picker, and you put in a list. And so I put in all 5 of our names, and we can actually do that online without doing the hat. I'm just putting it out there as an option. It's a lot faster. And so anyway, it's just an online version of the hat.
Okay.
Chair Payson, I would agree with that. I think we should just get it done, and really, if anybody has any problems with a 1-year term, 2-year term, or 3-year term, we can deal with it later. But just get it done.
I don't know if I can share my screen on this, but so you guys can see it. I'm not just doing it, but you guys can follow along if I can share my screen.
Sure.
Okay.
So you can,
All right, so
Jody, you can do the random, and then you can take a screenshot and add it in the chat. And because this is being recorded in the chat, would also have the PDF of that. And if we just want to cover our bases, then I completely trust that you're just doing random. I have no issues with that. But if we want it to be official, throw the PDF in the chat.
Okay, I'm not sure how to take a screenshot with my computer, so I don't know. I'm not that technologically advanced. I can send it to you if I take a picture with my phone. So I'm sure I could find it. I'll find it. But yes, I'll do that.
Jody, could you just type it? You can just type it. Do your random thing, type it, and then we'll figure it out. At least it still will be in the chat.
Type. Okay, and so what am I typing?
In the chat, under all, type in whatever it is that you came up with for your random numbers.
Oh, so you can.
And just enter it in as names, and then we'll have it for history.
Sure. Okay. There are two options. Would we like to just go in order, or do we want to pick a name, do a random name picker? Because we can shuffle it and it'll come up in one order. So if we say, okay, we're starting with the 1 year and then the two, you know what I mean, the staggered ones, and decide what order we're doing it, and then just assign the names to it. Match the names up. Okay, so let's establish what order we're going into, and then I'll shuffle it and I can put the names in the chat.
Just go from high to low. Go from 3 to 1.
Gonna say 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1.
All right. I'm shuffling.
Okay, and then you're going to put it into the chat, correct?
Yeah.
Jody, thank you.
And then what happens? What?
And then we have people in their terms. She's gonna have answers for us. This is Jody's first official job on the the Cheshire TV board. Woohoo!
Okay.
And just for clarification, I think there were 2 3 years, 2 2 years, and a 1 year.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to get it right.
Yep. Thank you, Mary.
All right, so y'all are seeing it. That is that's the order the shuffle came up in.
I'm not seeing it.
We're not seeing it.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. I put it in the
see
chat
the
to all
name.
panelists.
I see the names, but it doesn't say what the years are.
That's
Okay.
why I was saying we, Mr. Cook suggested going from highest to lowest. So there are 2 3-year terms, there are 2 2-year terms, and the last one is the 1-year term. We decided to go high to low.
Perfect.
Okay, so
Sounds great.
Travis and myself are 3-year, Mary and Jody are 2-year, and Russell is 1.
Done.
A high-tech lottery. I like it. I like it.
Working with the times, working with the time.
I'm not sure what just happened, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just again, I'm not clear about the officers and whether we elect officers now or not.
I believe Dave Payson just stepped away, but Lori, I believe that we voted the officers in at the annual meeting. That was the best that we could do because we were told that we couldn't hold the election back then by an individual. So we did what we could, and I believe the officers will stand as they are. We're just lucky to have officers in as directors now, I believe. But if someone disagrees, then that's fine. But that's the understanding that I'm under. Brad, would you have any input on that?
Well, the only thing your bylaws say is that at the annual meeting, immediately after the annual meeting, the board will hold a regular meeting for the purpose of election of officers, et cetera. So it sounds to me, that's long before my time, but my understanding from you is that you already did that.
Right.
And they serve for a 1-year term.
Right.
So now you got to get people on committees.
But didn't we just have an election? So wouldn't that have a new organizational meeting?
No, not necessarily, because you already had your organizational meeting. The election got skewed out of order in the process for whatever reason. So
new board members are not eligible for officer positions.
So they will be at the next annual meeting, which will be before they're up for election again.
Or at the meeting the members hold that remove half the officers anyway, so don't worry, it'll work.
Well, it can't be done at that meeting, but if the officers got removed, then at the next meeting called for that purpose, they could elect new officers.
Okay, so where are we in this process of determining?
You need to appoint committees now.
Okay, so the terms have been decided?
Yes.
Okay, did someone announce what they are?
Yes.
Again,
Okay, I missed that.
committees that we have,
My
Dave, are
bad.
the
Okay,
executive
so-
committee, the finance committee, the operations committee, which is not identified in the bylaws as far as a description, and of course, the hiring committee. Is anyone interested in being in any of these committees?
I would like to be on the hiring committee.
Thank you, Brian.
Is that
If
the,
if
is
I
that,
could, I'm sorry to speak too much, but because we're not familiar with each other, while we establish these committees, could each member of the board that was here and the new members just maybe give 20 or 30 seconds of, hi, this is my background, and this is why I'm interested in Cheshire TV. It could be very quick, but hiring, bringing someone onto a finance committee that's never looked at a balance sheet, I just think that there should be a little bit of information about each other. We never really did introductions.
Okay, well, let's start here with the hiring committee. I just heard Roy volunteered to be on the hiring committee. That's a good thing. I don't have any concerns about that. I think that's a wonderful thing. Karen, does that take care of that committee?
And I'd like to volunteer to be removed from the hiring committee.
I would like to say
Okay,
something, Chair Payson.
Yes.
I believe that the hiring committee should consist of 3 board members as well as Nick Morton. So I believe that we will need another board member on the hiring committee as well.
that is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, did you just resign from the hiring committee?
I'm sorry?
No, there's a question to Christina. Are you telling me right now, telling us that you're resigning from the hiring committee? Is that correct?
I am. When I agreed to join, we had limited board members with the stipulation that once we had
Okay,
a
that's fine.
board,
All right,
I would
so-
be replaced.
Very good. We need one more member then of the hiring committee. Is there anyone who would like to do that?
I will if no one else does. Okay, Jody, if you'd like to, that's fine.
Wait, I'm sorry. I might have misheard the question. So my
Right.
kids are making noise in the other room.
The question is, given that board members are only supposed to serve on one committee, are there any board members who would like to volunteer to be on the hiring committee?
Then yes, I'm sorry. I did hear it correctly.
Okay, so Jerry Newell and myself, I believe, are the hiring committee.
And Lori Donahue.
And Lori.
Is there anyone else who's interested? And we need to
Oh,
make a
pardon me,
motion, by
is
the way,
there-
we need to make a motion to approve this, by the way.
Okay,
I would like to make a motion that our hiring committee consists of Lori Donahue, Jody Newell, and Dave Payson, and include Nick Morton as our acting executive operations director.
I'd second it.
is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call a question. So if we have a roll call vote, please, come in. Uh-oh,
I'm here. Hold on.
okay.
Roll call vote for this motion. Steve Hooper,
The motion
of establishing the hiring committee that was just named.
Yes.
Steve Hooper, yes.
no,
Myself, yes. Dave Payson,
yes,
Razel Zulo.
Yeah.
Lori Donahue,
Yes.
Ken Colby,
Yes,
Jody Newell,
Yes.
Mary Ewell,
Yes.
Travis Rowe,
Yes.
Christina Germano,
Yes.
Jody Turner.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Okay, very good. Moving on, Finance Committee. Now, I believe that Christina raised an interesting point that in the context of these committees, some experience, some understanding might be useful. If I'm not understanding what you said, Christina, please correct me. In any event, we need to fill the hiring committee. So is anyone interested in working on what's the background and why would you like to do this?
If I understand you, Dave, are you asking about the finance committee now?
Yes.
Okay. I am happy to be on the finance committee. I've spent over 20 years as a professor of physics and astronomy. And before going back to school, I worked in retail in a buying office, and I'm used to looking at sheets, and I am perfectly capable of that level of mathematics.
That's great.
Okay. Jimmy Terry, do you have a comment or question?
I was just excited to have somebody that knows what they're doing. Yeah.
Oh,
and now
okay.
we have two. And who else can we have?
Very good. So we thank you, Mary. So we have someone who is volunteering to be on the Finance Committee. Is there anyone else who would like to be on the Finance Committee?
If I may, yeah, I would just like to say, and I very much appreciate that, Mary, and it'll be great to work with you. I didn't want to be intimidating about not knowing how to read a balance sheet. I can explain a P&L to people and a balance sheet. I think part of the Finance Committee is also we have some reserves for where our capital expenditures will be, and input in operations and that kind of thing will be really useful. So it's not that you need to know how to read financial statements. I'm comfortable with bringing that information to you, but a finance committee that understands that we are an existing entity to go into perpetuity would be really helpful for that kind of planning and reporting.
We need a third.
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy to work with you.
Okay, very good. I heard someone saying yes, there's anyone else who would like to volunteer to be on the Finance Committee? Okay,
Not a glamorous job, Dave, but I guess you got to appoint somebody.
Yeah, how about that? Okay, here we go. Guess what, Steve Hooper?
I can join the Finance Committee, so you don't have to appoint somebody. I'm okay with that one.
Right.
Background in budgeting.
Travis?
Yes,
Are
Travis.
you volunteering to be on the Finance?
Yes, yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Travis. All right. So I would like to make a motion that Mary Ewell and Travis will be appointed members of the Finance Committee. Do we have a second?
I second.
Very good. Russell seconded. All right. Is there discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. Colin, can we please have a roll call vote?
Steve Hooper,
Yes.
Conan Soliday, yes. Dave Payson,
Yes.
Roselle Zulo,
Yes.
Lori Donahue,
Yes.
Ken Colby is out for the second. Jody Newell,
Yes.
Mary Ewell,
Yes.
Travis Rowe,
Yes.
Christina Germano,
Yes.
Jody Turner,
Yes.
Ken Colby, you around? Abstain? Motion passes.
Okay, very good. next committee is.
Now, in the bylaws, it lays out, it states that an operational committee should also be set up, but doesn't actually state what the operation committee actually does.
Okay, well, might have been said before on the operational committee. I can say the operational committee has to do largely with the physical plan of Cheshire TV. Largely has to do with assessment of current equipment, with consideration of equipment acquisition, and then processes involved in things like remote recording. But mostly is the equipment operational, what equipment needs to be replaced, what should be replaced with, those kinds of questions. That's what my understanding, my experience with the operational committee was. So,
is anyone interested in being on the operations committee?
Okay, so we need 3 members, right?
That is correct.
Okay, and we have none.
Chair Payson?
Yes.
I would just like to input that this is a perfect opportunity for people that are producers to find equipment and to understand what it is that we can do for Cheshire TV to make us the best station that we can be. So this is an excellent opportunity for anybody who is a producer to have input.
Thank you, Jenny.
Can I ask our attorney, Bradford Cook, in your experience, what is your take on the operations committee and the fact that it's not laid out, it's not set up in the bylaws? Do we even have to fill it? I mean, what are we dealing with here?
Well, if it's not a standing committee set forth in the bylaws, and the bylaws generally provide, and I don't remember if yours do or not, that such other standing committees can be established, but
correct, like our hiring committee.
Well, the hiring committee, I think, is probably a special committee because you only use that when you've got a vacancy. But
Well,
operations,
correct.
you've always got operations.
We
So-
actually created that, I believe, last in the January meeting.
Okay, well, an operations committee is called a lot of things. It's not always called operations, but you know, in a public access TV station, generally that's as important a committee as there is because it basically has to deal with the rules and regulations on you know, public access producers and different operational things and advises on operations. So do you have to have it? Do you have to fill it? No, if you just created it, you can uncreate it, but sounds to me like it's pretty important. So I would think, this isn't got anything to do with law, but this is just operations. I would think you'd want to, you know, get some people on it that know something about how the place works. And I think Jody was right. In my experience, this is a place for the producers really to, who know what's going on the ground. In my other public access TV clients, that's where most of the action is on what goes on in the, you know, public access programs and what the policies are and that kind of stuff.
Russell.
A couple things. First off, I would like to volunteer for the committee. I sit on the board of the Monadnock International Film Festival. I've worked on movie productions and know my way around. I've been a member of Cheshire TV for a little while, and I hope that would work. And also, I wanted to ask, with all these committees, are notices for committee meetings going to be sent out? And will members also be allowed to attend?
Yes.
I do have something. Yes, the finance committee is set for the week before the second monthly board meeting after a quarter ends for the finance committee. The hiring committee, not only from our attorney, but also from our human resources consultants, Adaptiva. Members will not be able to attend interviews, negotiations with possible EDs. There's a lot of privacy issues around human resources and what negotiations happen and where someone has been and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to speak to that. The standing committees, the operations, the finance, the executive have set dates, and people can attend them. It doesn't mean that they get to come in and put all their input in, but they can certainly attend them under those things. But the hiring committee is going to have some places where that's not what's going to happen.
Sure. And I stand corrected. The operations committee is a standing committee under 1101 of the bylaw.
Yes.
Didn't hear that at all.
It is. It has to be filled, Dave.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Colin. I'm also we have lots of volunteering to be on the committee. That's a great thing.
Can I also ask I think you said that you could be on 2 committees.
That is correct.
I'm just I've had TV shows. I'm certainly not of the level, but I would be okay to stand on that committee.
Thank you, Mary. Very, very generous. All right, so that's 2 members. Do I appoint someone? Or
Dave, can I just ask a clarifying question? Is Nick Morton able to sit on the operations committee? He asked.
Nick has to be on all of the. He's a non-voting member on all of the committees.
Right.
So I can serve on the operations.
You are on
committee.
everything, Nick.
You're on
you
everything,
are on
dude.
everything. You're the interim right now. The executive director, when he comes in or she comes in, will be the person that goes to all of these meetings as well.
So just to clarify, Nick Morton as acting executive director, which really he's the acting operations director in the absence of an executive director. According to the bylaws, the executive director has to sit in on all these committees, but we still need 3 board members for the committee and then the ED to also attend. So Nick is part of all these committees, but he can't be one that is appointed, elected, or whatever as part of the 3-member of board of directors.
Right.
Is my understanding.
Right.
That's my understanding as well. One more person?
I'm not volunteering. I just have a question because it seems like all the new board members are volunteering for these committees, but the old board members, are they on other committees so they can't serve?
Okay, well, that's a fair question. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak out. I'm on the executive committee and the hiring committee.
I'm on the executive committee, and I believe what we're trying to do is to give you the opportunity to participate. We can fill these positions, but we want you to have a chance at first because you are the new board members and we want your input.
Okay, I don't think
I'll go on
Maybe
the
another
operations.
volunteer.
I'll volunteer to be on the operations committee if no one else does.
Okay.
I love that, Judy, because you're in there all the time anyways, and you know what's going on. That's awesome. Thank you.
We now have 3 board members who are volunteering to be on the operations committee. Leslie Dumont, Mary Dumont, and Judy Turner. I move that we elect these 3 board members to the operations committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. First, the motion has been made and seconded. Do we have any discussion? All right, call the question. Coleman, could we please have a roll call vote?
Steve Hooper,
Yes.
Conan Soliday, yes. Dave Payson, Dave,
Yes.
Roselle,
Yes.
Lori Donahue,
Yes.
Ken Colby,
Yes.
Jody Newell,
Yes.
Mary Ewell,
Yes.
Travis Rowe,
Yes.
Jody Turner,
Yes.
Christina Germano,
Yes.
and the motion passes. Executive Subcommittee. Currently, Jody Turner and Dave Payson are on that committee.
Can you explain what that committee does?
Conan will read it. It's in the bylaws.
Duties of the Executive Committee. The Executive Committee shall have the powers to act as the Board of Directors in between board meetings. Regardless of board resolution, the Executive Committee shall not take any final action or any manner that, under New Hampshire nonprofit law, also requires approval of the members or approval of the majority of all members, fill vacancies on the board, amend or repeal bylaws or adopt new bylaws, amend or repeal any resolution by the board, create any other committee of the board, expend corporate funds, approve any contract or transaction. So basically they're a mini board, but they can't do those things I just said. So they have a little bit more, they have some leeway, but they're not absolute. In my opinion, I try not to use them if they're only a last ditch effort to get things done in between board meetings. Bradford, is that correct?
Yeah, these are very strange bylaws because in almost every organization, the executive committee is made up of the officers. I mean, to have an executive committee that's just doesn't have any required members is very strange. I mean, I'm not saying it's illegal, but it's just very strange. But yes, it's especially with these handcuffs on the executive committee, it's an emergency committee to act if the whole board can't get together. That's really the only reason for it.
Chair Payson,
Yes.
I believe you and I are already on the executive committee, so I would agree to be on the executive
Yes.
committee and I believe you have as well. We need one more person.
Yes, we do. Cohen pointed that out. Yes. Would anyone like to be on the executive committee?
I'll volunteer to be on the executive committee.
Lori, I believe you are on both the finance and the hiring. Is that correct?
No, I'm not on the finance, just the hiring.
Okay.
And hiring's not a standing committee, so you can be on that in addition to the other two.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I just want to say that I think it sounds great. I think the initial thing of getting committees filled and seeing how we work together is a really positive step forward. So they may not be perfect, but it'll be great to see how the committees work together. And, you know, there's always time to move things around.
Exactly.
Okay, you appointed me. I have been struggling with my hearing all night. Lori, do I understand that you're volunteering to be on the executive committee?
Yes.
Very good. I will move then that Lori Donahue be elected to the executive committee of Cheshire TV. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Call a question. Cohen, can we please have a roll call vote on this motion?
Steve Hooper,
Yes.
Conan Soliday, yes. David Payson,
Yes.
Roselle Zulo,
Yes.
Lori Donahue,
Yes.
Jody Newell,
Yes.
Mary Ewell,
Yes.
Travis Rowe,
Yes.
Jody Turner,
Yes.
Christina Germano,
Yes.
and the motion passes.
Okay, so at this point, 8:02 p.m., committees have been filled, term limits have been established. I want to remind everyone that our next regular board meeting will be the first Tuesday of February. That will be February 2nd at 5:30 p.m. on Zoom. At this point, I think it would be appropriate that we consider adjourning the meeting for tonight. The most important business of the evening is done. And so I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I have one question for Christina.
Russell. Wait, who's the question?
The next finance committee meeting, did you have an idea of what that date might be? You said it had to be before the next.
I believe it is, I'm looking at the calendar. And I think it's on the website. It is on, so the next board meeting is February 2nd. So the finance committee would be on January 26th.
Debbie.
I would just like to remind everyone that we do have a calendar on our website. So as the committees meet for the first time, we will establish the dates and times of the meetings so that we can put this out there, and you should have all of the information that you will need. So we are trying to make this a better communication tool so that everybody can know that these meetings are happening.
Steve Hooper.
It's late. I'll keep this real short. First of all, as the city appointee and Cheshire TV director, I want to thank Attorney Cook and his assistant Madeline for all of their time and very knowledgeable input this evening. I think without their help, we would have been beyond help. So thank you to them. And also I just wanted to say welcome to the new board of directors. I just want to say I went on the council of the city of Keene about 5 years ago, and I had a lot to learn, but I think it's important to have a very diverse group and to respect everyone's ideas and their thoughts and try to work together to make a better Cheshire TV. So I'm looking forward to your new membership. And also I'm looking forward to maintaining and keeping all of the present board members so that we can work together and build and not destroy. Thank you.
Exactly. And I'd like to say something to Chair Payson.
Please.
I apologize that I have not been able to contact all of you. I have had some emergencies going on right now for me, and I appreciate Dave Payson stepping up as the chair tonight. I will be contacting you, and we will be giving you information so that everyone is aware of how Cheshire TV runs. I know that many of you have read the bylaws. This is great, but I believe that we really do need to clarify and be all on the same page. I think this is something that we can all work to. Just 1 minute, Russell. I'm just finishing. I think that we as an organization can work very well together. And this is not about us and them. This is about Cheshire TV. So I look forward to talking with you folks in the future.
And Russell, you have something to say?
I just wanted to bring up one thing that was kind of bugging me. We went through the motions of picking committees and drawing lots for terms, but we never addressed the picking of the new officers and sticking with the bylaws. I think that should be done at this meeting, seeing as this is the first meeting after an election. I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
That's not what the bylaws say. The bylaws say the first meeting after the annual meeting.
When was the annual meeting?
In
The annual meeting
October.
was in October.
October.
Not usually when new
October is when October is when we should have had the election completed, but we were held up with that because we were told that we were doing it incorrectly. So we continued with the annual meeting, and after the annual meeting, we also met with the city of Keene. So we have done everything that we can to continue to run Cheshire TV in the interim. If you guys want to vote tonight on officers, feel free. It doesn't matter to me, but I don't believe we need to.
Okay, I don't know if it's necessarily a need. What my concern is that, obviously I understand it's, there's a pandemic and there's a lot going on right now that would delay things, so I understand that that would be the case. But if the election and the electing, so if electing new board members goes hand in hand with electing new officers, and if the electing new board members was delayed, that's understandable. But I would think that the other thing that goes hand in hand with that would be delayed as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and I don't mean to belabor the thought and draw this out. So can I just make a motion to do it real quick? I mean, it doesn't have to be that hard.
I want to hear from Attorney Cook about this question.
Well, somebody can make a motion. I think the motion might be ruled out of order by the chair. The annual meeting was held. That's clear. I mean, I wasn't around, so I wasn't there. I don't know, but I know what I just heard. But if the annual meeting was held and officers were elected, they were elected. There is nothing in the bylaws that ties that. It doesn't say the first meeting after the election. And so I think the officers have been held. The bylaws say the officers serve for until the next annual meeting after they are elected, and they've been elected.
Thank you. That's a legal opinion. And what I heard was, we don't need to do this right now.
If I can just, this meeting has gone on very long. And if I can just suggest that I think we have our advice from our council, and to waste a lot of time because it's obvious looking at this chat box. I mean, I even see a member that says, when we remove directors, we can replace them. So I think it's a moot point at this point to re-elect officers because it's obviously that there are some board members and some members of Cheshire TV that plan on removing people that are officers because there's only 2 spots that can be removed, and 2 of those are officers. So why don't we just put that on hold until the next meeting, and you may not have the officers to remove in the first place.
I would agree with that. I do agree with that. That makes sense to me. All right, I'm gonna make a motion. Someone please know. I move what time is it on my computer here? It's not telling me. 8:10 p.m. on Tuesday, January 5th, that we adjourn this meeting. Is there a second? Okay. Is there discussion? Call the question.
Dave Payson.
Coming, please take a vote. Roll call vote.
Dave Payson.
Yes.
Conan Soliday, yes. Rezel Zulo.
I abstain.
Lori Donahue.
I abstain.
Jody Newell.
I abstain.
Mary Ewell.
Yes.
Travis Rowe.
I abstain.
Christina Germano.
Yes, adjourn.
Jody Turner.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you indeed. One meeting, next meeting, where's my notes go? To repeat myself, is Tuesday, November 2nd at 5:30 p.m. Thank you very much and good night.
Good night.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Yes,
Nice
you
to
too.
meet
I'm
you.
glad you guys are on board.